there. Thanks so much for joining me today. I'm Colleen Klimczak. I'm an organizational and productivity coach and a certified professional organizer. I own Peace of Mind Professional Organizing, LLC. Since 2003, I've been helping my clients live better lives through organizing and organizational and productivity coaching. I support my clients and my community with coaching, in-person and virtual organizing, my weekly podcast called Your Organized Life with Colleen Klimczak, a free weekly virtual productivity session called Finish Line Friday, a free weekly email newsletter, and regular content on Facebook and Instagram. I also offer presentations and professional development to groups and companies. And coming soon, I'll be launching a membership circle to support my community with even more coaching and productivity content. Want to finish strong this week? Join me for Finish Line Friday every Friday morning at 9 a.m. Central for a 2-hour productivity session. Drop me an email at colleen@peaceofmindpo.com or follow the Zoom room link on my Instagram or Facebook pages. These episodes are meant to be evergreen content, but please keep an eye out on my newsletter and on my social media pages for information about webinars that I will begin hosting myself in the next couple weeks. So keep an eye out for those, not on the podcast, but on those different channels. Welcome to episode 100. October is ADHD Awareness Month. If you know me at all, you know that I like to play with words. And ADHD awareness, those two words together, have multiple meanings for me, if you want to play with those words with me for a moment. ADHD awareness could mean I am aware of ADHD. I am aware of its definition and some of the top behavioral traits that go along with ADHD in kids or in adults, etc. That could be one way that we are aware of ADHD. This first description, the I am aware of ADHD, may seem unnecessary to you, but I experience ADHD resistance from people regularly. Because it is invisible, I hear that ADHD isn't real, or that person doesn't have ADHD, that person needs better self-control, or just to try harder. Or even from older generations, ADHD didn't exist when I was a kid, so it doesn't exist now. And of course, yes, it does exist. It didn't exist then because we didn't have a name for it. And we do now, and we know more now, thank goodness. We cannot deny ADHD exists or that a person has ADHD. And in terms of awareness, unless you're a clinical psychologist, we also cannot diagnose somebody with ADHD. I've also heard the complete other end of this spectrum. Instead of ADHD doesn't exist, I hear, well, we all have ADHD sometimes. Or, aren't we all a little ADHD? As if that was possible. And while this may seem like a more accepting stance than ADHD doesn't exist, it still doesn't yet respect the impact ADHD, attention deficit hyperactivity disorder, can have on the folks who have it. Disorder. It's in the DSM-5. Disorder. There are external behaviors and characteristics that we all may have that people with ADHD also exhibit. Our focus may wander, we may act impulsively, we may be high energy, we may struggle with time management. I have talked about the characteristics of ADHD in other articles and podcasts. From time to time, we do all exhibit what may be ADHD characteristics, but what determines ADHD is how long we exhibit them, how often, to what extent, and with what other behaviors and characteristics. So to respond to, we all have ADHD sometimes, or we're all a little ADHD. Yes, we all may exhibit the behaviors we expect from someone with ADHD, but how much do those negatively impact our lives? If we are neurotypical, if we don't have ADHD, for example, we are much less impacted. So the first step of awareness is to realize that ADHD exists and what that means. And the next is to find out how it shows up. Those two words, ADHD awareness, can also mean awareness of how ADHD shows up in ourselves and others. The current data shows that more than 11% of the child population 3 to 18 has ADHD. That's per the CDC website this morning. And that number accounts for only the diagnosed cases. Because ADHD is invisible, and because some people with ADHD can become adept at managing their symptoms on their own or masking their challenges, that number is definitely much higher. So we can be aware that it exists, and we definitely know someone with ADHD. Using that 11% or more of the population statistic, that means if you know 100 people, at least 11 of them likely have an ADHD diagnosis. If you only know 10 people, at least one of them probably still has ADHD. Now, here is what's interesting to me in what I do. I'm a certified professional organizer with specific training from Coach Approach for Organizers and the Institute for Challenging Disorganization in helping clients who have ADHD. I help them through coaching to find essential structures that support them in the midst of ADHD to help them be the best they can be. And because of who I know and who I work with, and because people feel comfortable enough to share their information with me, far more than 11% of my circle has ADHD. I find that interesting, but in no way negative. It's noteworthy, but not in a bad way. It exists. It exists for a lot of the people that I know, and I have ways of helping them. A longtime member of my community asked me via email to write more about ADHD, especially later in life diagnosis. There has been a swell of ADHD diagnoses in adults over the past few years. Pre-pandemic and pre-lockdown, many people with undiagnosed ADHD got by and they made things work. But the loss of external structures and the added demands and stresses that came with our home and work lives during pandemic and lockdown made many people realize there may be problems that exist that had never been addressed. And as mentioned before, there are strategies that help all of us and also people with ADHD to get more done, be more productive, manage our responsibilities, and manage our stress. I look forward to helping my clients, neurotypical and neurodiverse. That is the awareness answer for me. In this ADHD Awareness Month, let's gain awareness of ADHD a little more locally then, as in, I am aware that this family member or this coworker has ADHD, and I will spend time in October exploring with them what that means for them. If I'm a supportive role for that person, how can I best support that person? These are great questions to ask. At the conference I attended last month, we discussed a really powerful and simple tool for working with a neurodiverse person, like someone with ADHD or that may be autistic. And truly, I think it's a great tool to use for communication with anyone. Here it is. We ask, what is normal for you? That's it. What is normal for you? And recall, I just talked about normalizing in a recent podcast episode. So for example, I could say to a client or a family member or a coworker, some people like to listen to music while they work. Does that work for you? And if so, what would your normal music be to listen to? Or I could say, some people like to use timers to remind them to wrap up a project and move on to their next appointment. Sometimes that works for me. What is your typical way of transitioning from one task to the next? A timer? A visual cue? Verbal reminder from me? Do you have a typical way? What is your normal, right? So ask others, what is your normal? Normal movement or temperature or conversation level or work schedule or rhythm, etc. These are examples of organizational coaching questions, and I'm a professional who works with clients with ADHD. They might feel formal to you, but perhaps you can think of some on your own to open up these topics of conversation with the people around you. And I need to say, my friend, that you are allowed to ask for these questions and solutions for yourself too. Using myself as an example, because then I don't have to ask permission. If you asked me what my normal is, I like a visual calendar with blocks of color. I like a digital calendar because I can maneuver the info quickly and easily. I don't like being hot. It makes me feel physically ill. I do not like to listen to music while I work, mainly because I'm working with words, and I find it hard to have the words I'm working with conflicting with the words I'm hearing. In a conversation with my husband recently about working with music on, he mentioned he likes music on, and it works for him because he is dealing with numbers. And I appreciated that insight. My normal would also be appreciating patience from a person who interrupts me for me to catch up with what they're saying, because it takes my brain a moment to switch over to them. Something simple, right? But it really could make a big difference. Another normal for me, I don't like to be late. It makes me really anxious. So these are all parts of my normal. And my question to you is, what's your normal? Once you know it, can you ask for it? And can you ask others how to support their normal as well? In this ADHD Awareness Month, let's understand that ADHD exists and what that means. And let's gain awareness around ADHD in the people around us and even in ourselves. Support around essential structures that help us do well, no matter where we're coming from, is what productivity coaching is all about. If it's time to invest in yourself and explore coaching for organizing and productivity, I would love to hear from you. Drop me a line via email at colleen@peaceofmindpo.com or message me through any of my social media platforms like Facebook, Instagram, or LinkedIn. Thanks so much, and talk to you next week.